What's up, everyone? Welcome to Guiding Bolt. I'm your host, Jessica. Today, I want to jump into a new video topic that covers interesting facts. I can no longer recall how the tradition started, but for the past number of years, I've been in charge of bringing a fun fact to my weekly team meeting at work. Over the years, I've amassed a collection of facts that span from simple to mind blowing. Today, I want to serve up 10 tasty facts related to food. Let's dive right in. Number 1, honey. Honey can be great for adding to tea, sandwiches, and baked goods, but I bet you didn't realize that honey is the only food that includes all the substances necessary to sustain life, including water, vitamins, minerals, and enzymes, among others. But that's not all. Honey is one of the few known foods to have an eternal shelf life if stored in an airtight container. Its chemical makeup is to thank for that. Honey is a substance that's naturally acidic and low in moisture, making it an inhospitable environment for bacteria. There are actually reports of edible honey being found in Egyptian tombs that are several thousand years old. Number 2, berries. This fact made me question everything I know. As it turns out, what people typically call berries are not actually a berry. In order for something to be classified as a berry, three items must hold true. The first requirement gets a little sciencey, but the fruits must stem from a single flower that contains one ovary. 2, the fruit must have two or more seeds. And finally, the fruit must have an outer skin or rind with a fleshy inside that surrounds the seeds. Based on this definition, blueberries are actual berries, but strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, and cherries are not. In fact, a cherry is actually known as a drupe, which is a fleshy fruit with a thin skin and a center that contains a single stone or seed. Both raspberries and blackberries are comprised of many tiny drupes. So, blueberries are berries, but what else qualifies as a berry? Well, there are bananas, peppers, tomatoes, kiwis, and watermelon, among other fruits. All of these classify as berries. Number 3, ketchup. Ever sat down at a cafe with a giant plate of french fries in front of you, only to get delayed by a glass bottle of ketchup? Well, the difficulty you have in getting the ketchup out of the bottle arises because ketchup is a non-Newtonian fluid, meaning it doesn't have a consistent viscosity or thickness. Non-Newtonian fluids have different viscosities depending on external forces. Their ability to flow is dependent on what's known as shear rate. Ketchup is a shear thinning liquid, meaning with agitation, like a big thump on the glass ketchup bottle, for example, it will get thinner and make it easier for it to flow out of the bottle. If you've ever put cornstarch in water, then you've created the opposite, a shear thickening liquid. With agitation, it becomes thicker and less runny. Number 4, pineapple. Pineapple can be a tropical treat, but it wasn't always just considered a mere fruit. Back in the late 1400s, pineapple was first introduced to Europe and it was an instant success. As a food item and horticultural curiosity, the fruit's sweet taste and unique appearance made it one of the many wonders Christopher Columbus brought back from the New World. But it would take Europeans 200 years to perfect a greenhouse capable of growing the tropical fruit. The absence of a local supply and the increasing demand made the pineapple even more popular. Only affluent hosts could afford to offer it to their guests, so the fruit became a symbol of generosity, hospitality, and of course, wealth. In the American colonies in the 1700s, pineapples were no less revered. Imported from the Caribbean islands, pineapples that arrived in America were very expensive. One pineapple could cost as much as $8,000 in today's dollar. This high cost was due to the perishability, novelty, exoticism, and scarcity of the fruit. Before selling them for consumption, pineapple merchants would actually rent pineapples to people who couldn't afford to purchase them. Those who rented would take the pineapples to parties, not to give as a gift to the host, but to carry around and show off their apparent ability to afford such an expensive fruit. Because of the pineapple's reputation, napkins, tablecloths, wallpaper, and even bedposts were decorated with drawings and carvings of pineapples in order to make guests feel welcome. Number 5, hangry. Have you ever been accused of being hangry? As it turns out, being hangry is actually a real thing, and you can thank your genetic predisposition to the affliction. Back in the day, it was imperative that our ancestors were aggressive around food to ensure they ate first and got enough to survive. You see, the brain is critically dependent on glucose to do its job. When you're hungry and your body's glucose levels drop to a certain threshold, your brain sends instructions to several organs in your body to synthesize and release hormones that increase the amount of glucose in your bloodstream. Two of those released hormones are adrenaline and cortisol, both of which are stress hormones. Another reason hunger is linked to anger is because a natural brain chemical known as neuropeptide Y is also released into the brain when you are hungry. It stimulates voracious feeding behaviors by acting on a variety of receptors in the brain, including one called the Y1 receptor. Besides acting in the brain to control hunger, neuropeptide Y and the Y1 receptor also regulate anger or aggression, and an increased level of neuropeptide Y results in higher levels of aggression. So, the next time you're feeling irritable or moody and it's been a few hours since you've last eaten, go grab some grub to feel better. Number 6, onions. Onions are notorious for making people cry. I don't know about you, but cutting an onion up is not my favorite kitchen activity. But did you know that onions cause people to cry when they're cut because it's a defensive action? When an onion is cut, it triggers a chemical reaction that is known as synpropanethyl S oxide. Mouthful, I know. When this irritant comes into contact with our eye glands, it triggers the tear response. Talk about when foods fight back, eh? To counteract the onion's assault, some people swear by chewing gum, but freezing an onion for 30 minutes prior to cutting it will also help. Number 7, nacho cheese. Say what you want, I don't care. I love nacho cheese. But how do they get the cheese to be so smooth and creamy? It all comes down to sodium citrate, the secret ingredient needed to make any cheese into smooth, creamy nacho cheese sauce. Coincidentally, or perhaps not, sodium citrate's chemical formula is Na3C6H5O7. Does that spell nacho, anyone? Sodium citrate is an agent that reduces the cheese's acidity, making the proteins in the cheese more soluble and prevents it from separating into a greasy mess, resulting in a smooth, creamy texture that will never break. Number 8, Hawaiian pizza. Nothing is more divisive when it comes to food than pineapple on pizza. Where do you stand on this issue? Comment war down below. Team Death to Pineapple Pizza versus Team Pineapple Pizza for Life. Whichever camp you stand in, you actually have a Greek immigrant who lived in Canada to thank for this invention. In the early 1960s, pizza was still considered an ethnic food, an Italian-American curiosity that adventurous Canadians would try when they crossed the border to visit the United States. One such Canadian was a Greek immigrant who owned a restaurant. He brought the idea of pizza back to his eatery and began experimenting with different toppings. Inspired in part by the mixing of sweet and savory flavors in Chinese food, he decided to put pineapple on pizza just for the fun of it. The Hawaiian name came from the brand of canned pineapple that was used. It was an instant success. Number 9, donuts. Donuts. So many tasty options. I think long johns are among my personal favorites. But what else comes to mind when you think of donuts? Perhaps cops? Why is that? Well, cops around the United States began to be associated with donuts back in the 1950s when they were some of the only snacks available to police walking the late night beat. Back then, donut shops were some of the only stores open late at night because they needed to get ready for the morning rush. As a result, they were some of the best options for cops who needed a quick bite to eat, a place to fill out paperwork or make a call, or to simply sit and take a breather. Number 10, carrots. Have you ever heard the tale that eating too many carrots can turn your skin orange? Turns out the kids on the playground were telling the truth about this. In fact, eating too many of any food that contains beta carotene can turn your skin an orangey color, a non dangerous condition known as carotenemia. This happens because the excess beta carotenes in your blood latch onto areas of the body that have thicker skin, like your palms, the soles of your feet, your knees, elbows, and the folds around the nose. Some of the most popular beta carotene filled foods include apricots, cantaloupe, carrots, mangoes, oranges, pumpkin, squash, sweet potatoes, and yams. But you'd really have to enjoy these foods because you would need to eat about 20 to 50 milligrams of beta carotenes per day for a few weeks to raise your levels enough to see skin discoloration. For reference, one medium carrot has about 4 milligrams of beta carotene in it. So, if you were to eat about 10 carrots a day for a few weeks, you could develop it. And that does it for our list of 10 tasty facts about food. Are you hungry yet? I sure could go for pizza and some donuts right about now. So, what did you learn for the first time today? What are other fun or mind-blowing facts you would be interested in hearing about? Let me know down below in the comments. As always, we appreciate you stopping by, and we'll see you back here next time.